Here we are in the general manager's box, and my first question would be, you sing, you conduct, you compose, you direct, you design sets. Managing a musical institution would also be a challenge?
Will be, probably, but in the future, very far future, because managing an institution is a bureaucratic work. And bureaucracy, it's very complicated and make you lose a lot of time. So that's for the far future, hopefully.
Like I said, you studied singing, you studied composing, you studied conducting. But back in those study years, did you think that it was actually going to be the voice that would make you an international star?
I don't know. It's many years ago. We're talking about 1980, 81. Probably you were not born, or you were very young.
Yeah.
So I don't know. At the time, the secret was to survive. And then you thought how to survive and doing what. But in the beginning, is surviving. So singing came exactly because of that, because there was a big demand in the market. So singing said, okay, this is a good way of surviving. So let's start to sing.
Once you enter this Hall of Fame of lyrical artists, you get inevitably compared to singers from the present or from the past. Well, Mario Dal Monaco was often quoted in relation with you. Are you fond of this comparison?
A comparison is always good when it helps people to have a shortcut to understand. Mm-hmm. It's always not very charming to be compared, but to be compared with somebody like Del Monaco, it's fine, because he was a great singer, so far so good.
Did you have idols back in your beginning years?
When I was a kid, yes, of course. As all the teenagers, you have people that you would like to be like and to imitate, but then eventually you become a man and you want to be yourself.
Othello and Samson. Two monumental characters that fit you, let's say, like a second skin. Well, I was wondering, how do you get in spiritual connection with the two of them?
Well, first of all, I try not to get in spiritual connection, because these two characters are two very negative characters. And if you get in spiritual connection, they can kill you as a human being. It's very dangerous. When you are very intense in an interpretation, you have to be very careful, because the line is very thin. And you can go from professionalism, which is okay, to become crazy, which is not okay. So try not to get in the skin of the character in the complete sense, but to try to reproduce.
And to understand them.
Of course, to understand.
Up to a certain point.
To try to understand completely in order to reproduce without having to become. It's more or less what Laurence Olivier used to say when he did the marathon man with Hoffman. Mm-hmm. And Hoffman, every time he has a take, he used to run a lot in order to be very, very tired during the take, and because he's fond of method acting. And Laurence Olivier said to him, he said, Dustin, it's not enough to pretend. Do you have to really be tired as an actor? It's enough if you pretend. So, of course, it's two different schools of acting, but I think there's a balance in between two.
Well, I've been watching you very carefully yesterday during the rehearsal, and you get so immersed in the drama. I mean, one moment you joke and laugh with your Carmen, and the next moment you are like so Don Jose that it gets almost frightening. Well, you live and relive these characters. How is it?
Well, that's part of a second skin, I think. When you have been in the business so long, and I have been on stage also so long. I have started when I was 12, and I'm 42. That means it's 30 years of stage. You develop this possibility of going in and out the character very easily. And I think it's a way of, again, a way of keeping your brains healthy. Because
isn't it exhausting a bit?
It's exhausting, but it's much more dangerous to be in the character all the time. Because if you're in the character all the time, it's very dangerous, because all these characters, all these guys are very complicated, very psychologically very complicated. So it's good to joke in the middle in order to make things a little bit lighter, because if you take it so seriously, then you can be in troubles.
Tenors oftenly are the good guys, the handsome guys, the good heroes. They end up badly in the end, but nevertheless they are good. But I was wondering, once in a while, do you feel the urge, the need of being a villain, being the dark character, malefic?
But that's a cliche, because, yeah, tenors are always the nice guy when you do mainly romantic opera.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do the style of opera I do, Listen, Othello was a betrayer, was a villain. Samson was a terrorist of the Old Testament. Don Jose in Carmen is
That's an interesting point.
exactly.
Yeah.
Don Jose in Carmen is extremely violent. He's aggressive. He's insecure. He kills everybody in order to go ahead. Canio in Pagliacci is also very violent and very insecure, and he kills people. So I don't see the nice guys in these roles. The problem is that because the tenor roles are always so the cliché of the hero, that we tend to do all the interpretations thinking that our characters are very nice, and they're not very nice. They have very negative parts also.
Yeah.
Took the Duca di Mantua,
Yeah.
for example. That's garbage. Take Pinkerton, for example.
Yeah.
That's real garbage. And take Radames. He's half of opera garbage, and then he redeems himself. But in the beginning, he's very, very... So I think characters are not all good and all bad. They have both ingredients. That's why they can
They're very human after all.
That's why they can be interesting. Yes.
Chemistry between you and your stage partner is crucial, I suppose. So what do you do if, for instance, the one next to you on the stage is concerned only about taking well the high notes, and that's it?
Well, if you're working with me, it doesn't last too long, because normally I tend to be, as you said before, very, very connected with the character, and my colleague on stage, maybe in the beginning could be in the high notes, but then after a minute, every time you turn around, you see that I'm very in the character, that slowly I start to bring them into my way of doing opera. So it's not all of them, but sometimes you have to fight more or fight less, but generally talking, I try to bring the colleagues into living the opera and not just singing the opera.
Même moi, Carmen, je t'aime encore. Carmen, je t'aime, je t'adore. Pourquoi pas pour cela, et mon superflu. Carmen, laisse-moi, je t'adore. Eh bien, s'il faut pour te plaire, je resterai poli. Ce que tu voudras, toi, tu voudras, toi, tu voudras, toi.
What do you do before a performance that day, that particular day?
Oh, leave.
No vocal repulse, no...
It all depends. The voice is like the body. If you're okay, if you're healthy and fine, you just live normal. But if you are sick or something, then you rest more. And if you're tired, you sleep. And if you're not tired, you don't sleep. I think that it's dangerous again to only live thinking in your singing, because then you become a slave. You don't live anymore. So I think there's a good balance. Of course, if it is raining or snowing outside, you're not going to jump naked in the snow. But from there to be close in your hotel room and covered with a hat and a
never eating or drinking something a bit cold.
Yeah, I mean, like everybody would
yeah.
do, normal life.
Mm-hmm. You could have settled all over the world, but still you have chosen Madrid for you and your family. Madrid is a city I'm very fond of. I'm wondering what was the factor that you
There was a long
decided,
factor.
yeah.
Madrid was the end of a long period of research, because we started first in Verona, in Italy. We lived there 4 years, very beautiful, in a very beautiful little paese in the top of the hill. And then finally, we're talking about the year 91, 92, 93, where the Italians had a lot of problems with immigrations and the law and blah, 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 blah. So because I was from outside the community, because I'm Argentinian, I was kindly invited to leave the country in 1994, because I was not apparently welcome according to the law in Italy. Of course, now Italy is my favorite country to work, and I love Italians and we love each other. But at the time, when I was a beginner, it was very, very tough. So we moved to France. We lived 5 years in Paris.
Paris, yeah.
That's why Carmen and Samson and opera are so close to my understanding, because I lived in the country and I speak the language and so on.
Aveți 3 copii. Familia este un echilibru pentru o vedetă. Familia este lucrul care contează cel mai mult. Sunt băieți, fete. Sunt 2 băieți și 2 fete. Una de 35 de ani și una de 5 ani. Și 2 băieți. Cum vă spuneam, familia contează până la urmă, pentru că atunci când vocea și cariera se vor sfârși, va mai rămâne șansa de a rămâne cu câțiva prieteni, dar când ne vom apropia de 80 de ani și toți se vor îndepărta, singurul lucru care îți rămâne este familia.
We lived 5 years in Paris, and we couldn't stand it anymore at the end of the year number 5, because it was raining like 300 days a year, and it was too much. So I said to my wife, we have to go back to the sun, because we are people from the sun. And we went to Madrid because a good friend of ours was living in Madrid. A friend of ours who died 5 years ago. He was a conductor, Garcia Navarro. He was the director of the theater there. Curiously, he died of the same disease that unfortunately has killed Pavarotti, the pancreas cancer. By the way, we take the chance also of saying that we have lost one of the greatest voices in the history of opera.
Absolutely.
And so now he's up there and he's singing for God. So it's okay. But we stay here, and we are going to miss that voice.
Yeah.
But apart from that, and that's why we live in Madrid.
While in Paris, you spoke very nice and very kindly about the Romanian soprano Leontina Văduva, always for the Romanian television. I was wondering if since then did you have the chance to meet other Romanian musicians on or off stage?
Well, some of them, yes. I don't remember the name of all of them. Of course, Angela Gheorghiu, it's the most, nowadays is the most famous of all the Romanians, with whom we did Traviata some years ago. And Leontina. Leontina is my favorite. Leontina is my favorite because there's something special in Leontina. There's a sweet part in Leontina. When we did together that documentary on Puccini, so like 11 years ago. And she was my Mimi. That was very nice.
You photograph as well, and this is another aspect of your artistic personality. And I would say in this world more and more narrowed, you tend to embody a Renaissance spirit.
Yeah, you're very right, and I am happy that you see that. But that's me, because I am like that. I think the world is not narrow because it has to be like that. It isn't like that because people are afraid of just being free. And we are told that if you're a doctor, you have to be the doctor of just one thing. And if you are a cook, you have to cook one style. And if you are and so on and so on. And I think it's a mistake because we are losing the richness of being integrated. And it's a paradox because we are talking a world of globalization. We're talking a world of having all the cultures together and making one rich spirit. And on the other side, we are more and more restrained to live only this line and just think like that and smell like that. You know, everybody smells the same because all the perfumes are more or less the same. Everybody looks the same because everybody uses the same clothes. We all have the same haircut more or less because it's the fashion. So we are losing, I think the world is losing personality.
Always on the run. This is what I would say about today's times, people or ideas. Everything should be cheaper, faster, and clickable.
Yes.
Most often.
Mainly clickable.
Yeah. Still, in this world, you decided to mature and to always look for the essence of things. Do you feel like you're going against the flow?
Sometimes, yes, but I'm happy because sometimes I meet people like you, for example, who understands and who are trying to fight in the same sense. It's not the flow the problem, because to swim against the flow, it could be good because you make muscles. The problem is when you're going against the one who leads the flow, and then you can be in danger, because you're going against the people who want a world like that, because a world like that is much more easy to control.
The still giubba e la faccia in farina. La gente paga e ridere vuole qua. E se Arlecchino ti ne vola colombina, ridi pagliaccio e agliom applaudirà.
In the past, every country, every culture has their own point of view, their own traditions, their own opinions, their own strong languages and things like that. Today, the whole world is like a little town, which is good and bad. Because again, we are losing the characteristic of the people, we are losing the personalities. Everywhere we go, we speak in English now. The internet is English. We all more or less listen to the same music and eat the same food. We are losing the personality of the societies, of the countries, of the people. And that is very dangerous and unfortunately is wanted. Because a group of people like that is much more easy to control. It's part of a way of simplifying the planet. I used to say that we live in an era of lyophilization. Everything is lyophilized. You drink wine that has been done with chemistry, and you eat food that has been cooked by somebody else and is frozen, and so on and so on and so on. So we are losing this contact with the real things, with the real smells, with the real taste. And it's going to be...
Maybe with real emotions as well.
With everything, with everything. People is happy if they can see naked bodies in the internet. So they go to the porno sites. But they're very afraid of have a confrontation with a real naked body. And in the phone is the same. People don't speak. In the past, people speak like that. Then they started to speak in the phone, so they don't have to see each other. Now they don't speak in the phone anymore, they send SMS. So you send an SMS, and if the other people doesn't like it, they don't answer, or you send, but you don't have the confrontation. We are losing that, and we are going towards a very dangerous thing. And I think if we don't stop it now, it's going to be very, very, very tricky in the future. Not for me, not for you maybe, but for the next generation.
Let us end this talk in a slightly more joyful manner. What do you think your female partners on the stage have in mind singing opposite to José Cura?
Oh, I don't know, because I never thought in terms of good looking or not good looking. I always think in terms of energy.
And intensity.
And intensity, energetic in exchange. And in that sense, it doesn't matter if you are nice or if you're ugly, if you're handsome, if you're tall or if you're fat. If there's an energetic communication, then there's magic. And I think that's, again, the secret. That we are losing, because of what we were talking before, the capacity of looking into the eyes of each other. And on stage, that's elemental. Some colleagues say to me, it's so incredible. I look in your eyes and you look in my eyes, and you're not looking somewhere else when I'm singing.
To the conductor.
Or to the conductor, or to the clouds, or whatever. And that's part of all the thing. I think we have to come back on stage, on live, here. We have to come back to a time in when the human being was also physical. Skin, smell, touch. People sometimes are surprised because when I arrive to a place, I embrace people, I kiss people, I touch people. And some people are misunderstanding that because they think that every time you're trying to have a second intention. And I think it's not good. We need to come back to a world of senses, and not only to a world of click, as you said before.
Yeah. Well, you once said, whenever someone is in need of me, I try to be the light for that person. Well, thank you for being the light for us today.
Thank you very much.